Welcome, everyone. I am Laureen Quick, your host for the next edition of Unscripted and Unstoppable, the podcast where we explore what it means to navigate the second half of life with courage, curiosity, and your inner compass as your guide. I'm a navigator by trade for women over 50 who are discovering the second half of their life is not about starting over, but it is about building forward. And each week, I sit down with remarkable women who are living that truth, sharing honest conversations about the transitions, the adventures, and the opportunities they have experienced and that have the potential to shape our lives. Today's conversation is about a different kind of an adventure. When most people hear the word adventure, they think of climbing mountains or traveling to distant places or trying something completely new. But one of the greatest adventures that anyone can ever have can be quietly building something meaningful over time. What does it really take to build a business that lasts? Some people think that we just happen to be overnight successes. And what I will tell you from my own experience and from talking to many entrepreneurs is that overnight success took years to make. Joining me today is Jeanette Deatherage, an independent beauty consultant with Mary Kay. She's also a U.S. Air Force veteran, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, mentor, and an entrepreneur who has spent more than 40 years helping women and men look their very best. What impresses me most about Jeanette is that, well, it's not just the longevity of her business. That's pretty impressive as it is. But it's also the relationships that she's built and the genuine care that she brings to every person she serves. In today's episode, Glow, Grit, and the Adventure of Building a Business After 50, we're going to explore Jeanette's journey from what first inspired her to start her business to the lessons she's learned over 4 decades of entrepreneurship. We'll talk about resilience, confidence, and the power of relationships, and why the second half of life can be the most rewarding season for building something that truly matters. Whether you are already a business owner, dreaming about starting something new, or simply wondering what could your next chapter hold for you, I think you'll find inspiration and some practical wisdom in Jeanette's story. So let's settle in and enjoy this conversation. Jeanette, I am so excited to have you here today. Let's start by having you tell us a little bit about your early life, what shaped your sense of independence or adventure before you ever thought about owning a business.
Okay, and thank you for having me. I'm real excited to be here, so I do appreciate it.
I'm delighted.
So I grew up in Wisconsin on a dairy farm, and so I was the youngest, so I had to do all the housework because everybody says, did you milk a cow? And no, I didn't. But I was one of 5. And when I was in high school, one of my girlfriends said, "Hey, I'm going to go down to see the recruiter. Do you want to come with me?" And I said, "Sure, I'll go." And she didn't show up. And I did, and I decided that I would join the Air Force because there wasn't a lot going on in Greenville, Wisconsin. So I thought it would be a good thing for me to do. And that's what I did. I signed up to join the U.S. Air Force. And at that time, they had a waiting list. So I went to college for a semester, and my time was up where I get to go in. And I served our country I did 3 years active and 7 reserve. And while I was in the military, they thought they put me in a job with electronics, and I could barely plug in a toaster. But I had high math scores, so they put me in electronics, and that wasn't a good fit for me. So um, I found Mary Kay when I was a teenager, and I thought, well, maybe I could do that because there was 21 men to every 1 woman when I was working in the military. And then it was a woman's culture where I could do, faith, family, and then career. And I thought that's going to be a better thing for me. And I went in reserves. and work 1 or 2 days a month and 2 weeks a year, alongside while I was starting to build my business.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you had that experience of being the one of the only women in the room, basically,
Yeah.
working in a very male-dominated field and realizing that wasn't for you. And then boom, chicka boom, you found Mary Kay.
Yes.
And yes, I am a little aware of the history of that company, that Mary Kay was an incredible woman. She really
Mhm.
was. And continues, her legacy continues on today, and all of the businesses that people take and run. So impressive. I like that you were so young when you made that choice.
Mhm.
Most of us were not that attuned to who we are, but you found something that really aligned with your values and what and how you wanted to be and do. And so you started
Mhm.
building that business. Beyond that initial draw, what did you see did you see opportunities for Mary Kay? What was your vision when you started with Mary Kay? How did it did you have one, or you just kind of hoped it worked out, or how did all that happen?
That's really a great question, because for the first 4 years, I went to every Monday meeting, never missed a meeting, and I went to training. So that's twice a week I was going in to get trained and all that. And I didn't wear makeup before I started. I barely brushed my hair because you wear a baseball cap and you have to take that off and go into the building. You don't have a hat on in the building. So I actually told a friend of mine that I was going to be in Mary Kay, and she just kind of looked and smiled. And inside she was thinking, what? How can you do that? So, kind of lost where we ended up. What was the real question?
Well, I was just curious. So, did you start with a big vision,
Oh,
or
the
did you
goal.
just say, "Oh,
Okay.
I'm just going to do this and see if it works"?
That's kind of what I did.
Yeah.
I'm just going to see what happens, because as I was saying, I was going to these meetings for 4 years, and finally someone said to me, by this time, at the time the company was, you could earn a car if
Hmm.
the use of a car. And after being a consultant for 4 years, I should have been moving somewhere with my business. And my mentor said, why aren't you really, holding classes and doing the business instead of just coming to training? And she says, don't you have a goal? I said, well, not really. She says, well, don't you have bills to pay? I said, no, not really. So she said, you need to have a goal. So I think she probably meant get something like a $500 goal.
Yeah.
What I did was buy a brand new Thunderbird, and I had to make the payments. So then I started to go to work. I did the 3 parties a week, and within 6 months, I had earned the use of my first car. So I gave my husband the Thunderbird. So basically, we both had a couple of new cars, and that's not how we were raised. We were always raised on getting a used car and that kind of thing. So it was really fun that now we had, 2 new cars. Um, and the company wants us to say only 1% of the company gets the use of cars. So it's not like everyone just gets cars. You get a car, you get a car. It's not
Yeah.
like that. You
It's
do
not
have
Oprah here. Yeah.
to know.
Well, I think that's good to say, because that tells me a lot about what you did when the fire got lit with that goal. Suddenly, boom, you were out the door and on your way and
Yes.
worked it. You worked the
Yes.
business. Yes. Okay, this is good. And I think, when we are older, so the women listening today would be women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond. We may not have these grandiose dreams of, I don't want to build a mega billion-dollar business, right? But I
Mhm.
want to create something that allows me to contribute in a meaningful way for me, and at the same time, it can fund my life in the ways that I get fun from.
Right.
If not paying the rent, it might pay for the next trip to wherever it is I want to go in the world, right?
Right.
So we can just start out and see what happens.
Mhm.
But then at some point, it's more than just curiosity. You really do apply yourself. You
Right.
start, whatever the ground rules are for whatever business you're in, whatever the recommended or best practices are, you start to execute those. And then you
Mhm.
start seeing results when you work it. Yeah,
Yes. Yes, exactly.
cool. So you have been in business now for over 40 years.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this, because most of us, we have the attention span of a peanut. We are here, and then another shiny squirrel shows up over there and we run over here. What has kept you committed when most people would have left after 5 years or 3 years or 10 years even? What's kept you in that business for 40 years?
Well, I have had a lot of ups and downs. We moved 13 times. Um, and some of those moves were great. I was able to just pick up the beauty case and go and do facials. It was not a problem. But it seemed like the older I got, the more codependent I got. And, I told you about the car. I had earned the use of 11 cars in 22 years. So that span, I was really focusing on the business.
Hmm.
But I had two children at home, so I got to set my own hours, and that was really fun. I got to be a room mom and do all those wonderful things, and and then things happen, right? I mean, everything, and they just do happen. My husband was in the military too. We only knew each other for 2 months when we got married, and we're still married. But
Wow.
once he retired, I didn't really know how our family would look because I was a military wife for so long. And so I took him to a job fair, and the guy said, "Well, I'll hire either one of you." And then when he called, he said, "I told my boss I hired one of you who's coming." And my husband said, "Well, you go." And I was still doing my Mary Kay, and it was a 6 month job to help veterans get jobs. The 6 months turned into 6 years.
Oh my God.
I loved it. I was doing great. I could do it alongside my Mary Kay. And then after 6 years, it was time to go. So I wasn't made to work for somebody else. We realized that I need to have my own business and really work the business. So
Hmm.
that's what happened there. But the other thing, he stayed in, as I said, for 28 years. And I can't remember how long it was after he was retired, but we found out that he had stage 4 cancer. And he's still with us. That was 9 years ago. So we're just very blessed to know that, I mean, he's fighting it and he looks great. You would never know. And we go on. I keep it in the back of my head like all the time. But he's happy. We have grandkids. He's just a happy person. He gets out of bed and he's happy. And that, as you know, we don't women are thinking all the time about so many different things all the time. So he's happy and we just go on. And I really am rebuilding my business because I went through so much. I was a sales director. You have to keep a team, and I just couldn't do that. We moved here the day that Florida closed down. We moved to South Florida to be around our grandson. And because it closed down, we didn't go anywhere or do anything for 3 years. We went to see our kids every day, but we didn't. I mean, I was shocked. I didn't know how to go into my business. It's just like, even though I moved so many times, this was a hard move. It was a really, really hard move.
This was for the pandemic?
Yes, the
Yes,
pandemic.
okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because he had, we just couldn't go anywhere. We would maybe go to eat once in a while if we ate outside, but South Florida, it's always hot. So you don't really want to eat outside when it's hot. So, and then after the 3 years of isolation, I went to a seminar in Dallas and I came back with COVID and gave him COVID, but we each got a shot, and neither one of us, it didn't last more than a few days for us. So we're really, really grateful that the shot worked. But I was like, you've got to be kidding. I was so careful. We didn't even go to church. We did church on TV.
Mhm.
And then I go ahead and get it. But like I said, it was not long COVID. It
Yeah.
was fixable. So,
It was an interesting time in our lives.
mhm,
I did the same thing. I was very safe. And then my daughter got married and I went to her wedding and I got COVID. And it was like, but it was what it was.
right, right.
What I find interesting here is, um, well, I'll say this about COVID. COVID changed the way we do business. That's been
Yes,
my observation. We are not the same as we once were. Prior to COVID, networking was really common. And it was
yes.
really, there were lots of opportunities locally just to meet people and to gather and connect. I don't find that very much anymore. And also, I don't
Mhm.
find people wanting to actually get together. They much rather do a Zoom call, generally speaking. We're
Yes,
all
I
kind of, I
agree.
don't know what happened in terms of how we got used to that, but it's become a
Mhm.
norm now, which changes how you interact and engage with people.
It really does.
Yeah.
I was very, very active when we lived in Panama City, Florida. Extremely active. I was in the chamber and I did another women's group. I saw people all the time. And then when we moved, I didn't know what Zoom was. And I joined one Zoom group, and I didn't turn the camera on for 6 months. How do you network without a camera? I was so shy and so shocked and just
Yeah.
I got my hair, I brought someone in, got my hair cut, put my makeup on, and then I was ready. Somebody found me online and she says, "Will you come join our group?" And I thought, sure. I was really excited. And we ended up meeting every day at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it was a fantastic way for me to get back into the swing of things. I was on camera every single day. And then that group, I'm still with that group where we just brought it down to 1 day a week because there's so many networking groups. There's no reason to have the same people looking at each other every day. But it was really helpful, and I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity to meet friends over Zoom.
And I think that what that pulls out for me is just this idea that you're going to have, you could call them obstacles. You're going to have challenges. There things are going to pop up in the course of your life. Um, and the real question is, how do you face them?
Hmm.
How quickly do you adapt, adjust, change, modify? And we think sometimes when we're in our 60s, I shouldn't have to change anymore. I'm done changing. I'm done growing. Heck no. Heck no, especially if you have a business. But I think to be fully alive, you are always open to the new things that come along, the new ways of being and doing and seeing and communicating and talking and whatever else we can think of. But we have to be open to that and say
Hmm.
yes. The faster we are able to say yes, the I think the more accelerated our growth is, and
Hmm.
ultimately, I believe the more we're successful. Yeah.
Absolutely. I wish I had known you 8 years ago. 9 years.
Well, we know each other now.
Yes, yes. But
So,
because that change, I mean, my husband knows that I hate change, but change is going to happen, whether you get on board or not. It's going to happen.
yeah.
So I'm getting much, much better about that.
Well, I think we have this illusion that, when we retire, quote unquote, whatever that means, somehow life is going to calm down, it's going to be stable,
Mhm.
and to me that's dying.
Yes.
That's death. You're walking towards death, and it's like that's
Mhm.
not what I want. I don't think that's what many of our listeners, our viewers want. They want to feel alive, and
Right.
embracing change, sure enough, is one way you're going to feel alive. I
Yes.
guarantee it. Yes. And you are showing me, Jeanette, you're a living example of that. So thank you for revealing that to us. So as you evolved over time, do you feel like your confidence kind of went up in a movement like that? Or did you feel like it kind of went up and down like this based on whatever
Definitely
was
the
going
up and
on?
down.
Up and down?
Definitely up and down, up and down. And there were times that I wanted to quit. It wasn't like, it was all peachy cream for 40 years.
Uh-huh.
But, then again, I had to think back, well, I can't work for somebody else. What am I going to do? Just sit and watch TV and eat bonbons? Because, I mean, that was my other choice. So I
And that
realized,
truly, it sounds like it might be fun for a day or two, but after, I mean, I do that when I'm sick, right?
right.
Right. But yes, that's
But
not a life.
it's
Yeah.
just, like I said, I started networking every day, and Zoom was all I knew. I don't know. I still am not that techie. So if somebody else gives me another thing to work with, it's like, well, can we Zoom instead?
Yeah.
But there's other times, I moved so many times, my customers were on the phone. We didn't see each other. And it's not like I kept every single customer. Some were like, oh, I don't want you to have to ship. I'll just find someone local. And it was, it was heartbreaking because I had developed that relationship with them and I didn't care that I had to mail it, but I let them make their own choice, of course. And, some of the movies, it was easy to find people. I actually went through the telephone book, if you remember what that
I
was.
do.
And I did okay doing that, going through the phone book. You wouldn't think that people, I never met these people. And I still, I had facials with them. I showed them how to transform. I mean, that's what really it is. It's a transformation when they keep looking in that mirror going, is that really me?
Mhm.
So it just and really I just felt better just putting on the lipstick sometime. You might not feel like anything, but it really, you put on a lipstick and it's like, oh, well, that's kind of fun. People notice me.
Someone a while back, a few weeks ago, we were talking about this in a group I was in, and it was someone asked me, well, I said, follow your joy, follow your bliss. And they're like, even when you're down, even when you're discouraged and you're depressed and sad. And someone said, well, what's one thing that you do to follow your bliss? And I said, I put on lipstick.
Yeah,
Or I buy lipstick. I mean,
right.
let's see, I have 4 lipsticks sitting here next to me right now. It just gives me joy and
Yes,
pleasure.
yes.
Um, I like how it feels. I like how it looks. So it's little things like that bring us joy. That's just kind
Mhm.
of a side thing going on there. So here's a question I am thinking about as you were sharing your story. Do you see it business today as someone older different than business when you were younger, or is it all the same? Does it change?
No, I believe it changes because we change. And I mean, it's amazing. There are women that go across stage. We do big recognition. Mary Kay's really into recognition. They go across stage in their walker and they get their prize. And then we have women that are 20 years old, 19, even as young as 18, and they're going across to get their, you know, if they're older, say they're 24, well, they're going to get their fourth ring. And I'd be sitting there going, huh, how do they do that? Well, I know how they did that. They held the parties and they did what they were trained to do. So, yes, it has changed. We used to do things like drive to Dallas from Oklahoma City with paper orders and cashier's checks. On the last day of the month, we all got together. One person would drive to Dallas to drop off all the orders. Now everything's done electronically. We can find friends electronically. So it has changed a lot along the way. Absolutely.
And have you changed? Do you see yourself looking at the business differently, looking for different things, or just having a different perspective?
It certainly has. And in between, I was a sales director for 30 years.
Mhm.
So with COVID, I wasn't bringing in new people. And Mary Kay taught us it was like a bathtub. You have to leave the stopper open. And as you add more water to the bathtub, the stopper's open, and the people that don't want to stay in, they don't stay in. So now I really want to build my business. I'm not sure about the directorship part, but I want to be walking across stage and getting that diamond ring. And one day, the fact that I'm doing podcasts is wonderful, but I would like to speak one day to a larger group and let them know that it is not all peaches and cream. You have to work. And if you have a down day, accept it. It's okay not to be okay. And I didn't realize that until a lot later in my life, that it's okay not to be okay. And then who's your battle buddy? You need to have someone that you can call and just to talk to
Mhm.
get out of the muck and realize that, okay, it's going to be okay. Especially like my husband was gone for like a month at a time,
Mhm.
and I had to find my way around and through, and that's why I went to that training twice a week, just because I needed to be around other women.
Good. All right. Well, let me go ahead and ask you one more question today. What would you say to a woman over 50 who is thinking, I feel pulled towards starting a business.
Mhm.
Feel pulled towards growing my business, maybe even restarting it. What advice would you give that woman?
To go for it. It may or may not work, but how do you know unless you try?
Hmm.
And and then of course, we say, well, you don't can't really try. You either do or you don't. That's a movie thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you get stuck, you reach up and you get a hold of somebody and they'll pull you up if you get stuck in the muck again.
Mhm.
And so that's the most important thing. Like I said, just go for it because you never know what is on the other side of it until you try or until you do it.
So just do it. Don't think too
Just do
hard
it.
about it. Don't
Right.
overthink it, right?
Don't,
Just go
yes,
ahead and
don't
try.
overthink it.
And
Absolutely.
and I did have one more question I'm going to ask you. Talk to me a little bit about relationships because it seems like that is the foundation of your business.
Mhm.
How do you think about relationships today as you are rebuilding this business for yourself?
Well, I know how important it is to follow up. and take good notes. And if you need to, call, if that person says no first, call her, say, may I have permission to call you back next month? And you ask permission and then you call her back next month. Don't just leave it hanging, put it on your calendar that you're going to call so and so in a month. And it just makes a difference that if you, stick to your goals, have a goal. I didn't have a goal for this first 4 years. There wasn't, I didn't have a goal. You have to have a goal and then keep on going. Never quit. Don't allow other people to get into your head. You need to clear your head. And doing affirmations was something that Mary Kay taught us, and I started doing them again. And it was like, why did I wait so long to do these again? And I've been doing it morning and night, and I write them down. I don't just say them, and that's made a big difference too. Because I have an accountability person right now,
Mhm.
and I take a picture of every time I write my affirmations, I take a picture, then I send it to my accountability person, and that's helped a lot to make a
Wow.
big difference.
So you have a support system
Yes.
that supports you. Yay.
Yay.
And at the same time, what I also heard from you, Jeanette, is that it is the consistency. It is doing it every day. And it doesn't have to
Absolutely.
be 7 hours every day. It
No.
can be 5 minutes every day, 15 minutes every day, but you do
Mhm.
it anyway. And then
Yes.
I also love the piece you said. This is great advice for all of us. Don't let that person get inside your head. Don't imagine what they're thinking because you are
Mhm.
probably wrong. That's been my experience, right?
I agree. I
If
agree.
they gave you permission to call them in a month, that means they want you to call them in a month. So don't play any
Mhm.
games in your head about how you'll be bothering them or they really didn't mean
Mhm.
it or they were just being nice or whatever
Right.
story you want to
Right.
tell. Just do what you said you were going to do, which is I was going to call
Exactly.
you in a month. So,
Exactly. And if
and
she says no again, no means move on. Flip the around. So
mhm,
just move on to the next person. If she keeps saying no, there's many people out there that would love to be pampered and to feel good. Women just go through a lot more cycles than men, I believe.
uh-huh,
I'm sure they have their ups and downs, but theirs are more, ours just, it's squiggly. It's not just up and down, it's squiggly back and forth too. And that just, I think spaghetti, that's a term that I had thought of before, where everything's touching, but there's no arrangement to, right? When we make them, before they get in the hot water, they are arranged perfectly. Once they're boiled, they're mixed up
yeah.
with everything else. So
And
that's kind of how I
hard to
feel like
sort
it.
out, hard to sort
Yes,
out sometimes, but they still make great spaghetti.
absolutely.
Yeah, all together collectively. So, Jeanette, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I really like these kinds of conversations because they remind us that success is not built in a single moment overnight. It is really built, one relationship at a time, one decision at a time, and just the simple act of perseverance that we continue on. And your story is, to me, it's a beautiful reminder that, our second half of life does not need to be about slowing down or settling. It is really about bringing all the wisdom we have evolved with over the last 40, 50, 60 years, and then applying that to something that's meaningful to us, that creates and allows us to have a new dream and to perhaps even live to our full potential. So, anyone listening, please thank you for spending this time with us. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, make a comment, share the episode with someone else who might need to hear this message and get some encouragement for her journey. And also, if you are interested in connecting with Jeanette, we will include in the show notes today links to make a connection with her as well. I would encourage you to do that, even if it's just in the teeny tiny back of your mind, thinking you might want to talk with her and get to know her a little bit better. Reach out, do what we were just talking about, just do it and see what happens. Stay open with curiosity and follow your bliss. Follow your bliss. Again, Jeanette, thank you so much for today. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you next time.
All right, thank you.